set of priorities we live by determines our destiny.
Words have got the power to change and transform people.
When we understand something differently, a ripple effect happens in our energy.
By a show of hands, who here today thinks that they are, or believes that they are master of social media and online marketing? So, in your mind, everyone here does not believe that they're a master of social media. Okay? That's your first problem. You're already stopping yourself. You've already created a roadblock on your journey to mastering this. So my goal for this talk is very clear. I want you to realize that the only way to effectively use webinars is through the power of authentic connection. And also, every industry can use a webinar to achieve massive success. Any industry. Okay, so I'm going to share with you 3 secrets. I'm going to go through it quickly. Secret number 1, webinars are there to connect, not only selling. Webinars get a bad rap because people always associate webinars with selling. You can take a blueprint and go onto a webinar, and you won't succeed if you don't have authentic connection to the people that you're talking about. It's a beautiful platform to create a connection. Remember that everything that we do and our business success boils down to profit. Profit comes from selling, okay? Nobody's going to buy from you unless they know, like, and trust you. Correct? So, getting somebody onto your webinar doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sell the first time. So, webinars are there to connect. Okay? Let's get that straight. Let's get that connection. It's not about us. It's about what's in it for them. The more they get from you, the more they actually start to care about you, funny enough. But they want to know what's in it for them. I've seen webinars where people completely ignore the chat section of the webinar. And people comment, and nobody replies to them. You know, Brendan Bouchard said that one of the most confusing thing for him is that when people have those emails that says no reply. Have you ever seen those no reply emails? And he's like, why say that? We want people to reply to us. Because when we have that conversation and we connect with someone, then we open up new avenues. Webinars are there for connection. And it'll work in any industry. So the food industry. How can I use a webinar if I'm in the food industry? Well, let's say, for instance, that you bake cakes, okay? And you want to use webinars to build a connection to people who love cakes. Wouldn't it be so cool to go onto a webinar and actually show people or give them the step-by-step instruction of how to do this? If you are on a webinar and somebody gives you a recipe and they have a restaurant or bakery or whatever, and you go and do it and it tastes fantastic, then you think to yourself, well, if mine tasted like this, I wonder how theirs tastes. Well, cool. Thanks for joining our webinar. Please come and check out our store. Come connect with us. Interesting, huh? Next one, automotive industry. Say you're selling used cars, okay? What's the biggest headache when it comes to buying a used car? Checking it out. I'm going to buy this car. Is it going to last me? You know on YouTube how many people watch car videos? It's insane. Be interesting to know the 5 checks to do before you purchase a used car. Check number 1. Let's take a look at this. Let's look at the engine. Check number 2. Let's look at the interior. Let's look at the mechanisms, all that stuff like that. And if these things happen for this model, then don't buy the car. But the great news is, at Sajen's Used Cars, we follow this 5-step checklist and make sure that every car that we sell is going to last you. Because we're authentic. See, the thing is I'm trying to get is that every industry has questions. Okay? It's up to you to provide the answers. You guys are here today because you have questions on social media. We provide the answers for you. Why should it only work in one industry? Logically, it shouldn't, correct? It should work across everything. But it all boils down to, starts with a C, connection. Secret number 2, it'll help your business for the next 20 years. How can you take a webinar that you do once and make it work over a longer period of time? Well, it's very cool. You automate it. So you can go and take a webinar that you've done and put it into a system that automates it. So it works without you. So you have the advertising that's running, that's sending people onto a webinar that you're not even on, and it can work. But what's even better is that it can be used over multiple platforms. So one of the things that we get stuck in is creating content. So you can take out snippets of that webinar and put short videos on Instagram, short videos on Facebook, okay? In my presentation today, I'm going to cover the 10 top things to do when you're buying a used car, okay? I'm going to take point number 1, I'm going to edit it down, I'm going to use this video. Point number 2, edit down, use this video. But if I told you to go and shoot 10 videos for me, would you think you'd get around to doing it? No, I don't have the time. So with webinars, it's really cool because if you do them in a specific way, you can actually repurpose them. You can take the audio down and you can put it as a podcast. So remember, people interact with your content in 3 different ways. They either watch it, they listen to it, or they read it. Then you can take the content in the webinar and send it to rev.com and get them to transcribe it for you, and you've got a blog article right there. It's a new way of thinking about how we can maximize our time while using webinars and make it last for a much longer period. Secret number 3, it's easier than you think. It doesn't have to be the challenge of a big 7-foot Russian who wants to knock your teeth out. It's only as hard as you make it out to be. All the stuff is only as hard as you make it out to be. The beautiful thing about webinars is that it's a quick turnaround time. You can go live with webinar advertising on a Sunday morning for a Tuesday webinar. Okay? You can fill out, we get 1,000 people registered for this webinar. Who here can tell me what's the average between 250 and 350? That's the show rate, okay? But there's so many things that can boost that show rate, like the indoctrination sequence, SMS reminders, so on and so forth. But you know what's the biggest reason why people give up after the first time they do a webinar? It's because the numbers don't make sense to them. I got 1,000 people to register for my webinar, but only 100 showed up. Only 150 showed up. Why didn't 1,000? This webinar stuff doesn't work. You're not supposed to have 1,000 people on your webinar if 1,000 people registered. How many webinars have you registered to that you haven't showed up to? Can you see that when we position something in a specific way, people get a specific meaning? And sometimes when we go online and we create ads or we create posts or whatever the case may be, and people don't react to it the way that we want them to react to it, we're surprised. So we've got to be very clear on our messaging. And yesterday I talked about that, is that we've got to stop for a second, come down to earth, and just speak to somebody as if they were a human being. Not try not try and be too fancy and too over the top and too prim and proper. Because nobody wants prim and proper, they want you. So it's quick turnaround time, but you have to understand the numbers behind it. There's averages for show rates. There's averages for, I don't want to use the word closing, so I use the word opening, because I don't like to close a sale. I love to open an opportunity for people. There's averages for that. And by knowing those averages, you can work out your math marketing math in your Excel spreadsheet. But it's brilliant lead generation. And it's quick, and it's measurable return on investment. If we put in a certain amount of money into a webinar, we can see what our return is very quickly. It's not a long-term, it's not a long sales cycle. And more people are connected today to the internet than there was a year ago, than there was 3 years ago. And more people are going to be connected. And the more people get connected, the better the speeds. And the better the speeds, the more people can actually sit in the webinar and actually watch it without complaining about the sound and the picture. But then people talk about webinars being dead. But I think not even a month ago, Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi did a webinar. Okay? I think it's Tony's first webinar ever. Does anybody know how many people registered for that webinar? It felt like 300,000 people registered for that webinar. How many people showed up and watched it? 85,000 people around the world. Biggest webinar in the history of webinars. How can webinars be dead? Someone ever told you a marketing person ever told you webinars are dead, they're lying to you. Okay, so this is a webinar that we did about 2 months ago. As you can see, this is the back end of Facebook. The ad is off at the moment. But we got 26 Rand per lead. So that means that every single person that registered, we only paid Facebook 26 Rand. So we spent 127,000 Rand on this campaign. This is how much money we made after 127,000 Rand. Okay? That's 10 times. Shows ROI, 846%. Huh? It's all about authentic connection. Being authentic, connecting with people. Let them resonate with your message. Do you know, if you do not believe in what you're selling, you're never going to make it. If you don't 100% believe in what you're selling and what you're offering to somebody else. Do you know selling comes from the old English word sellan, which means to give? It means to give people something. So if you take the time, make the effort to approach me and want something from me, it's my responsibility to give you something in return. And give you something of value in return, so that you keep coming back. Most people think that selling is only one sale. It's not. It's a series, repeat business. Thank you so much for giving me your time and attention, and I hope that you make the decision to get up and take action